Coffee General. Alice and I will ask him a few questions, but before we start, I would like you to tell us a little bit about your coffee shop.
Our coffee shop is a unique concept within New Zealand coffee shops. Basically what we did 7 years ago when we started was we looked at how can we best display what coffees New Zealand has to offer. So with that, we went down the multi-roaster kind of line of what we do. So a lot of the cafes in New Zealand typically have been one roaster, that's who we deal with. That's where we get our machinery from, that's where we get our grinder from, so we'll stick with them. We went down a different line because we are a coffee roaster ourselves, but we wanted a point of difference in the shops and we wanted to highlight all the different coffees within New Zealand. We said, hey, can we team up with a certain number of people that want to jump on board with our concept? And obviously it's a little bit of a there may be a little bit of a barrier there in people's minds with different roasters because you are going to your competitors, if you like, to say, hey, do you want to come in with us and share this with us? The idea is that we went to these roasters and those that were keen on the idea jumped on board with us, and there's been some great guys, the likes of Cookhaga, who's been with us from the get-go, Mike and so forth, and Three Beans Underground, you know, these different ones, and all from around the country, so Christchurch, Wellington, here in Auckland, you know, we all kind of jumped on board and we had this offering where we could say, hey, to the customers, what sort of coffee would you guys like to drink? And we went down the line of there's something kind of for everyone. So we had a staple on the menu at any one time, which was our house roast, and then we got these different options in. And within those roasters, each and every one of them is bringing in their different experience and their different, what they have available to them. So there might be single origins from Guatemala that one roaster has that another roaster doesn't. The thing I like about cafes is, especially in this one, we're in a community, and I think as a cafe you become a meeting point, and the conversations that we've had on this table with different people coming in from the community and the relationships that are formed really just kind of helps establish in me the reason why we're here.
So it seems like you're really community minded, like making links between all the different roasters and also making links in the cafe. That's really nice.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I mean, it is probably about 2 years ago I kind of sat back and reflected on kind of why I did it, and personally it was we can make coffee and we can make great coffee day in, day out, and that's part of it obviously, but for me it's about the interactions that we have with different people. I mean, even you guys, right?
Yeah,
you guys, so the different interactions that we have and the people we meet, because you can get into your circle of friends and stay there, but with a place like this there's many different walks of life coming in, so you get to meet all sorts of people, which is beautiful. Yeah.
Do you think you've created any couples in any of your cafes? Any marriages or anything like that?
Yes, but probably none that I can speak of on camera.
No, we didn't think you would.
Yes.
I was like, where are you going with this? Great. Shall we move on to some warm-up questions?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, cool. Shall I ask one and then you one?
Sure. Mine are always a bit more risky.
Black or white?
All depends on the time of the day. So I usually go white in the morning because it's more of my breakfast substitute, to be honest. And then black in the afternoon, I find black's nice.
You're a bit of an Italian coffee drinker, isn't
potentially, that's how maybe they're a bit of Kiwi drinkers. Yeah. So it's nice to have the flat white kind of in the morning, and I do like that. That is breakfast, and then progress through batch brew and kind of espresso into the afternoon. Saying that, I probably don't.
Cups on average?
Yeah, so I don't probably drink past midday because I think, to me, when I did the Barista Championships, I did one stint where I just kept on drinking coffee, and then the night before the Barista Champs, I didn't sleep at all because I was just wired, and to me I was like, oh, you got to limit this a little bit to how much coffee we do drink.
Think you ever develop some sort of resistance or some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Resistance to caffeine. Like
tolerance. Do you ever, that's the word, tolerance to caffeine. Have you ever developed?
Tolerance or reliance, I don't know. Right?
That's addiction.
Yes.
That might be your answer to one of my questions.
Yeah.
What year did you do the Barista Championship?
So 2000 and, from memory, 2007, 2008, 2009.
Wow.
And then went into judging the next 5 years.
So you're a judge at the Barista Championship?
Yeah, just...
and which section of it?
For the Barista Championship, so for the technical side of that, then into the latte art side of it. So we did a couple of years latte art judging, and then I had a family, so a very wise person in the industry said, Hans, you'll always have coffee, maybe just focus on your family instead of necessarily pouring out into that.
And you have some gorgeous girls.
Thank you.
So you were talking about batch brew, filter or espresso?
It's again difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if I'm drinking black, I'd probably, if I'm honest, prefer a filter. I think
Same.
there are more options available to me in filter than there are necessarily available as espresso, and I think often you can taste the difference between each filter a little bit more easily than you can between each espresso.
Yeah.
You can definitely taste the difference between espressos, don't get me wrong, but I think filter gives you a larger range to choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And you roast your own coffee.
Yeah.
What's your thinking or thought processes around how you choose your beans and that you're going to roast and how you roast them?
So we're actually just this year decided to launch on a new initiative, which is we're going to launch it with a blend that we call our Allies blend. And the idea there is that we want to be looking at who we're giving back to. And so in that, I've just reached out to a couple of our green bean suppliers recently and said, hey look, we want to do this. We want to kind of give back to the producers over in Colombia, Rwanda, Burundi, these different areas. How do we do that? And so my proposition is that we go forward and we're looking at a way that we can, whether it be donations, whether we pay a premium on the coffee that we supply, we bring that back, we make a blend specific of that, and let the community here in New Zealand know just what we're doing. So we're giving back to the community over in Colombia, for example, but we're also giving back locally, so that blend is going to be reflective of who we're partnered up with in these different countries, and then obviously giving back to the local community. So that's one part of it. So that's how our blend is obviously how we can support these places. And there are other copies that just come to us. There's copies that, they'll come across on their different suppliers offering sheets and be like, oh, that's a very, it sounds delectable. Like when we read it down, we're like, oh, there's notes of mandarin and peach and lychee in that coffee. Oh, well, that's interesting. We want to give that a try. So we'll see that as a single origin that we can roast up. And
That's
then
great.
within our main blend, it's just been a matter of over time the seasonality of the coffee that comes in.
Yeah.
We'll never try to stay necessarily to one formula 100% because coffee being such a natural product, it's going to change season on season.
Yeah.
And people do try to match that profile quite closely, but if we can also highlight that, the Brazil's tasting a little bit more chocolatey this year, for example, maybe that's something that we can relate back into the blend. So,
That's great.
Yeah.
And just touching on that subject, that's actually, you're helping introduce the questions. What is your most memorable or most interesting flavour that you've tasted in a cup?
So
That you've identified.
So the most recent one that comes to mind is we just got a coffee back from Melbourne that someone else brought in for us, and it was a Kenyan. And immediately, both myself and Josh said, that tastes like blackcurrant. Josh said Ribena, but
Yeah.
And
That's great.
and then we looked at the tasting notes and we're like,
He actually said Ribena.
Yeah.
That's great.
yeah, it's brilliant, eh?
That's
And then we saw on the tasting notes right there, the first one was blackcurrant. And you're just like, it's then that
It's not just coffee.
it's not just coffee, right? And
Yeah.
you can taste that, and I think that's the most recent memory of tasting something
I mean,
like different
that's
coffee.
That is
fun enough already.
That
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Now I have a very unsophisticated palate, so I would say that I think coffee notes are a myth. I'm wrong. I know that.
Yeah.
But how long did it take you to start actually tasting the notes and looking at the packet and going, yeah, I am tasting what's meant to be?
To be fair, I think that's developing day on day. I think the easiest way, because I come across a lot of people that are in the same boat and they say coffee is coffee, right? It tastes like coffee to me. You do a cupping and you put one coffee down on the table, and that tastes like coffee, right? What the best way I've found to do it is you need to taste maybe at least 3 coffees side by side, and it's then that you realise, hang on, it's not just coffee. There is a difference between this Kenyan, this Costa Rican, this Colombian, for example.
Yeah.
So it's tasting and comparing alongside
Yeah.
that you then see, oh, okay, maybe that one is a little bit more fruity and acidic. Maybe that one there, you know, they've roasted a little bit darker and, you know, you're getting some more of these caramel notes out. So
Yeah.
I think that's always developing for me.
Yeah, it's
And as a roaster, you look for different particular flavours and how you can enhance those and what's changing in the roaster to make it more sugary or so forth. So I think, yeah, as I say, you're always tasting new things. You'll taste something out, you know, you'll go buy a thing of yogurt and you'll taste that yogurt and then you're like, that will store in your flavour bank and you're like, well, next time you're going and tasting something like, oh, that tastes like that blueberry yogurt I had the other day.
What was your first memory with coffee? And you perhaps remember how old you were?
I would have been 12 or 13 and I had a cappuccino, the driest, foamiest cappuccino I probably ever had, up in a little town.
You do remember the bad ones, don't you? Yeah.
In, north of Auckland. And I drank it because I thought, you know, this is what people drunk at this age. And I drank it and I tried to like it because I was with someone that was probably 10 years older than me. I was just like, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at all.
We are almost done with the questions. I only have 2 more questions to ask. You've already touched on the personal question. We already know that you have a lovely family, 6 with you and your beautiful wife. You have 4 kids. But I would also like to ask you a political question. Is that okay?
That's okay.
So the question would be, how is your coffee helping the environment and the animals, including people?
I think there are a lot of companies that do answer that green, organic, environmentally conscious side of the question. And while we won't shy away from that, I think, yes, we can focus on the planet and being environmentally sustainable, and I'm for that. But I think we also need to think about people. I think people, you're either in the mindset that you're helping the planet and going green, or you're helping people. I see almost a disjoint between the two
difficult.
sometimes.
to marry the two, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you want to support these
Farmers.
coffee bean growing communities,
Yes.
but you're going to have to import those beans
Yeah.
if you want to support them
And also,
provide them. Then.
like organic farming and like environmentally conscious work on some of these farms is quite difficult. And it's actually nice to recognize that when you say, well, do I want to buy that bag of coffee from the farmer who might not be able to invest in more environmentally friendly farming? Or do I just say I'm going to go for the one that is already very established and has the opportunity to have a workspace that is more environmentally conscious? So yeah, you answered it perfectly because it's very difficult to marry the two things.
I think you can be environmentally sustainable. I think it may require just more education potentially on what the farmers are doing. What do they want a companion plant, and work down that line and be sustainable that way without necessarily getting into having to spend a whole lot extra money to get there. If they can plant the right thing that eliminates pests, they're eliminating the need for pesticide. They are going down that line. But so that is the green environmental way to do it. And as I said, I have no problems going down that line. What I want to see is, okay, are we also giving back to the farmer? Are their families sustainable? Is their future in coffee sustainable? Like, if they're being paid $1 less than it's costing them to make a kilo of coffee, a pound of coffee, that's not sustainable for them. They're not going to be around for long. So how can we look at that side of the equation as well?
And the last question is, now we all 3 of us love coffee, right? We know that. But is there one bad thing that you could say about coffee? And if there's one bad thing, like, how did you get to that conclusion? Like, I would say that I do develop a quite severe addiction to caffeine. And I think that's not necessarily the best thing about it.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think there is, as long as you're aware that that's a part of it. If I was to think bad,
as a coffee shop, so think as a coffee shop owner as well, and as a barista as well. Is there something that is super annoying about coffee and running a coffee business?
I think trying to break down people's expectations necessarily of what a good coffee should be and what a bad coffee should be. And I think there's less and less resistance to those conversations. But when you get someone that comes back and tells you your coffee's burnt, or which is the typical answer, but often the coffee's not burnt. It's just the way it's been presented to you, the way someone's extracted it. It's not burnt. Kind of covers everyone's dissatisfaction with coffee, right? Burnt or weak or so forth. I think if I could, I would like to educate all those that are drinking with us what their coffee should taste like, and also let people know that there are options. So not everyone's going to be happy with the way that we have roasted coffee, but we do specifically here. We have the options, so they can get something that's a little bit darker or a little bit lighter. And that just comes down to conversation with people, and I think often people are very ready to say their opinion
online
before they're ready to talk to someone face to face.
That's true.
And I've got one last question, which is, we would like to buy some coffee beans to take home.
That's really good.
And I would like you to not recommend the one you think we would like the most, but the one you think we would like the least. The one that will surprise us. Like not the coffee that's going to be our new favourite, but the one that's going to be Wildcard. So you think we're either going to be like, what's this? Or it's going to be...
So to answer your question more, how do you drink it? Because that then...
So we, at the moment, we're limited because we're travelling, so we just have a French press cafetiere.
Okay.
But
our preference, I think you definitely like milky drinks a lot more. So you drink your coffee white usually.
only because I'm on gastritis though, not because I actually prefer it.
And I quite love I like batch brews as well, but I do like the freshly made filter.
Yeah.
Like say a V60 or an AeroPress if you've got one, but obviously that takes a long time in a busy coffee shop to make.
Yeah.
But that's usually what, if I want to get like a really good experience with coffee and not just like have my usual reliable carb, then I will probably go for a filter.
About a month ago, I could have given you the exact coffee that would have gone kind of either way, because I really liked it, but Josh was like, "Oh, that's a bit funky." So it really depends on what you like as well.
What was that one that you were thinking?
I'm trying to think. I can't.
But now we
Top of my head what that was.
we have a French press now, so anything that would be good for a French press would go. But nothing that, because that's the thing, we usually get the coffee, because baristas and coffee shop owners know a lot about coffee, and they will know what will be the coffee that we will definitely love. But I really appreciate it when experts give me something that teaches me a bit more about.
We'd like to be challenged.
Right. Okay. The one I would suggest is one that I don't actually have right now. It's a Brazil that we roast up specifically as a single origin, but it's kind of a little bit different to the profile that we do on most of our filter coffees. So that would be the one I probably recommend.
Will you have it anytime soon?
Yes, we'll have it again on Monday.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that would be one that you can either go, okay, I like this style of it, or it's not what I'm used to in batch brew, so or filter or however it is. So that would be kind of the out of the box one that I'd say. But I mean, there are plenty of options there for a good filter coffee as well.
We'll find one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
We got this 30 kilo roaster that we then we roast probably about 20 kilos at a time on this one, and then that's kind of where we're at the moment. We've probably got capacity to do, I'd say, up to about a ton a week.
Wow.
Here.